All right. What is up? Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. One and all, and we do mean all. My name is Nick. I'm with a group called the Unists. And thank you so much for joining us on our Saturday stream. Hopefully the levels are good. We kind of had an abrupt DJ faux pas there. Music kind of left us quickly. Here we go. But yeah, hopefully you guys can hear us. But welcome to everybody in the chat. Cory, what's up, bro? Pylos is here. Danny Duberstein. We got Logan P. Karachi Kung Fu. And, ooh, the Cyrillic gets me every time. Nikita Kryjanov? Anyways. And Buff. Need another one. That's right. We're doing it today, guys. Yes, if you saw from the updated video stream title, we're doing a collab today. So we're going to get into that very quickly, but I kind of want to set the stage a little bit. Longtime viewers I don't want to say may be confused because that's not accurate, but they may be sensing that the channel is kind of evolving. You know, that was always kind of the point or part of the plan, so to speak, is to kind of come into its own. Remember, Unism started as something that was really as just casual as conversations that would be taken seriously, such that people would make it their goal to figure out what's the right path, what are the right ways to act, to behave, to think, to be. Is there a right way? And so we, back in late 2015, me and a group of friends and acquaintances committed ourselves to this mission, and it's kind of evolved from there. What's up, guys? Soul Fuzz is here. Philip Burnson, Tiffany Lee. On the menu today, Tiffany, we've got some great stuff. We're going to quickly go through, we're going to quickly go through some of the memes, but maybe it would be more helpful to just kind of dive right into what we're going to be talking about. It always takes me about 45 minutes to get through the best memes. Maybe we'll just take a quick peek. Do we deserve that? I think we do, just for the long week that it's been. But as I was saying, the channel is evolving. The videos we've put out recently kind of take us in a direction that is a little bit more pointed, or at least they raise interesting discussions that might indicate where things are going. Now, I don't want to be too premature in saying what those things are or what those directions might be. But again, we're just playing with these ideas. We're merging work and play into a cohesive action that would fall under the umbrella of what we're doing with Unism. That being said, today's guest relates to that, and so we're bringing on our first guest. We are going to be premiering a number of guests in the upcoming streams, people that are integral to Unism, people that are inspiring us, people that are paving the way forward. They are always going to be interesting. They will not always be famous like today's guest, or infamous is perhaps a better word. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's look first at just a couple memes to bring ourselves into the mood, and then we will jump into the meat of today's stream. All right. So let me pull this up. Right, boyos, here it is. Let's get into some quick memes, and then we'll go down to what's going on. Seba here. Hey, bro, I decided to live off of a reliable food source in a stable settlement. You'll regret this. You don't dominate plants. The plants you don't domesticate plants. Plants domesticate you. Don't worry. I'll just farm a little bit. 40,000 years later. Hey, bitch, I'm back. Heart. Is there a Gloria Jeans cafe around here? Society's changed, bro. Oh my god, I have to tell you about my supply and demand. I'm too independent to need a tribe mentality. I know a woman who would love to settle down with a man like you. Can we get a low-carb bite to eat somewhere in the city? WTF. And that's how it goes. That is the story of humanity. Damn, this guy's getting swole. We got, this guy's doing it. Whoa. Trippiness. I don't get it, and I don't accept it. Alright, we got more monk action. Keep calling me a pussy. It's just another thing I can tell the principal. Yes! Oh, dude. This guy, yeah, what is this? I was gonna say, what's his name? Flaming Skull guy? Ghost Rider? No, that's not him. Alright. Santa deniers be like, I guess I was wrong. Oh, no. God, no. I'd be spending mass amounts of time in the bathroom for no reason. I don't get it. Don't get it. Oh, is that Sasquatch? Okay. Okay. So you're pathetic. Did you know that? So your plan is posting memes until someone falls in love with you? You're so pathetic. Okay. I get it. I get it. Bitches be like e-girl this and e-boy that. How about you disable the electricity grid? Oh, that does it. All right, guys, that's enough memes for today. Now, again, for the bulk of today's discussion, we're going to be getting into. Yes, Soulfuzz has it right. He says, "I am deficient in vitamin meme." That is the state we find ourselves in. And if you guys caught our last stream last week, 𝕤𝕙𝕤𝕤, who we can see here, I'll take the hourglass over his face. This guy, 𝕤𝕙𝕤𝕤, actually has an idea that information essentially, or information content, represents the way we can essentially reach what would be the time, or the edge of time itself, through some sort of proliferation or exchange of information content. That is what we engage in when we engage in memes. That being said, without further ado, let me pull up our guest, who has been patiently waiting. Let's give him a ring, guys. Let me introduce to you Cory Edmond from a little group called UNITE, or it's stylized UNITA, and it is essentially, or is also known as NITA. That is, what's up, Cory? Nature is the answer. Is that correct, Cory?
Yes.
All right. Let's make sure.
How is this internet working on Windows XP?
I know. we have actually hit some kind of rift in time, wherein we're able to simultaneously, do everything we need. It works. Somehow
internet.
it works. But
my goodness, if only people, took it for granted in the 21st century. This is powerful.
It's amazing. It is incredible what we can do with the magic of the internet. I'm actually still rather shocked by it as we grapple with everything it means. But speaking of that, speaking of grappling with things and what they mean, how were we introduced to each other? I think you found the server, the Discord server. You can join the Unism Discord server via a link in the description. You can also join the NITA Discord server down below. That's right. So NITA is the name of Cory's group, or movement, I should say. And why don't you kind of just tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I got involved with Unism because I want to sort of integrate our efforts. I see that we have similar goals. At the end of the day, we're human beings. We want to love one another. We want to have family. We want traditional values. We would typically, want to free the world, so to speak. And we want to do so with actual universal principles. So the whole idea of this so-called quote-unquote movement, really, it's, I say quote-unquote because it's all of us. It's everybody and their efforts just coming together under one banner, something the independent media doesn't have, something that increases the amplification of presence and power to our voices and to these ideas which are not currently present on the public stage. We can create massive amount of impact, and I've been detailing through my own videos, and people, they have their own videos within this community as well, and I encourage everybody to, create their own content. And it's amazing what we see. We see there's potential. We see there's a better world ahead of ourselves, and that it's totally possible by requirement, by natural law. It's completely possible to change the world. And in fact, we're just limiting ourselves most of the time. We see all these problems within the world. They're manifestations of a denatured system, is what I like to call it.
Yes.
You want to call it statism, want to call it Zionism, whatever you want to call it. I might not mention some words on live stream like that, but
right.
Yeah, especially Windows XP these days we don't have censorship, but
yes.
we're time warping into the future. Now we have censorship. Sorry,
yeah,
folks.
We're in between days. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, time teleportation. So. Yeah, it's a movement to bring around these universal ideas. There's nothing as grassroots as this, because we're getting right to the nature and the heart of things, which is universal, innate, timeless truth, something that's immutable, not caused by humankind, not created by humankind. And so if we learn from the universal truths that are here, we can then know what actions to take, especially for the required world that we all desire.
Yes.
And that's exactly what this whole movement is about.
That's incredible. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but I think everyone in the audience is sort of following along. We're all sort of feeling this. There is a sense that we've kind of crossed over into a point of rapid or exponential growth, where things are finally gelling, they're clicking, people are awakening.
Vegetarian body type.
Yes. I think people.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. But I think there is.
No, go ahead, roast me. I love it. Roast me.
No. But there's a sense in which we all know what's happening, and noticing is the first part of that. But you mentioned something that I wanted you to kind of elaborate on, which is presence. What is your conception of presence, and how does it affect what we're doing?
The presence is that of which is amplifying an individual's own impact within their own life. So we should each be trying to, make the best of our own lives if we want to live generally good lives. And I think most of us know that. That's the law of attraction at best is, we want to do, yeah, roasted. We want to do to do our best, right, within our life. We want to help out our family or whoever's close to us. We need to have close connections, make sure that we have everything secure for the future, especially in these unprecedented times and so forth. So then it's about, okay, how do we take individual change and bring that to the world so that way they can also change themselves, and that way they can also change their communities as well, right?
Yes.
And so it's a ripple effect, it's a domino effect, just like anything is in the universe of karma, where we are helping ourselves and therefore helping other people and helping them. That helps ourselves, and it's a give and get situation. And we are going through a little bit of extra efforts to try to get out there, to bring these ideas out there, and to help other people do it within their own lives. And that's why I also have like the Discord for the Nature is the Answer server, and that is basically for guidance and accountability, right?
Yes.
Into basically uh, helping people with that guidance, with that direction that's in their life. So you say there's that direction. Yeah, we all feel it. We all want change innately within our life, but how do we actually get it? That's the direction we set for ourselves. So now we have to follow that path with the requirements that are set, so that way we can move toward that path and also not get defeated in the process. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves, but nor do we want to do nothing and just sit around and watch ourselves, get swept by the wind. So all right, what is this that they're mentioning in the chat? Do you
Yeah,
want
so
to
let's
tell me what that is?
Yeah, so and this I'm actually out of my depth with this as well. Thoughts on BAP? So BAP is Bronje's
Okay.
pervert, as has been clarified, and I think this is the one thinker, or sort of I guess we could blandly say influencer, thought leader. I guess is the more cliche word. Who kind of is maybe is going down one of these similar roads. I think he has kind of but I can't speak to him maybe any more than you can. Are you familiar with Bronze Age pervert, or what can you tell us about him?
No,
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 oh, that,
I'm unfamiliar, sadly.
damn. See, that's the
Yeah,
thing because people do.
but I've read a lot of things though. That's good though. I'm glad that somebody mentioned something that I had to look into. That's good.
Yes, it is always good, and I
I'll
think
have
that
to look that up.
let's maybe save that for next week, because I think there are a lot of people that can tell us much more than either of us could say. But there seem to be these figures that are kind of capturing, let's say, the popular imagination, and are able to evoke certain ambitions. I would say they're able to somewhat
I see.
catalyze a certain movement in many senses, by which I mean they excite people. They excite people with ideas. And I think that that's somewhat similar to, or perhaps the same vein that we're tapping into, which is how do we take advantage of the incredible wealth that's all around us. I think for far too long we've been terrible stewards of not only our own selves, but of our communities and the world. And maybe this kind of boils down to one of those hippie type "we've got to save the world" type things. But there's so much. I would say that
Yeah.
that's a criticism that emanates from our conditioning. To the idea that we look down on things that don't have expressed economic value, or don't have scientifically measurable benefit, to the extent that if we can't monetize it, if we can't profit from it, it somehow is sidelined, or somehow becomes fractured from the unity that we could call life, I guess. Yeah, what do you
I
think?
see it. I'm reading some stuff about it. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's a little bit about like if I'm getting this correctly, like darkness and underground sort of like figures, type of underworld type of themes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true, but yeah, Bronze Age, that makes sense then in that sense. But I think, yeah, so it's a book. That's interesting. I'll
Yeah,
have to
so
look into
that's
that. I've read a lot of books recently.
if yeah, so let's talk about that in a second. But apparently, according to Philip Burnson in the chat, he says lifting weights for regime change, which I think is a great way to boil it down. If his idea is we need to become the individuals we're destined to become, so that we can precipitate a collective change that creates the world we're trying to inhabit, it would be accomplished through
Hmm.
individual action. that would then be synthesized into a collective result. I guess if that's
Right.
if I'm right in that respect. But what kind of books have you been reading
Okay.
lately, Cory?
Almost everything you can think of when it comes to changing the world.
Okay, yeah,
So this is this book in particular is like one of those philosophy type of books. So getting those, there's tons that you don't find unless you go to maybe like torrent websites now, because
yeah.
everything's getting censored. And that's why I go to a good website for people who are listening is unblockit.win. It's a website that allows you to access books and materials that you can't usually get on the usual internet or through usual search engines. And
Mm.
so you can search for almost anything, and you can find a lot of things. So I mean, there's so much out there, and I'm reading everything, whether I agree with them or disagree with them. I'm reading all of it to really get the fuller perspective of things. But generally speaking, I like to make observations of the natural world around me, and it's interesting. I want to read some of the comments here, if you don't mind, on your
Yeah,
chat.
yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So, okay, the first one says, I agree with an ontology of limitation, but I don't want to make an idol out of nature and therefore dehumanize man.
Mm.
Well, here's the thing: we're not making an idol out of nature. Saying nature is the answer is just a general phrase which holds true innately within the universe, because everything that is natural persists through time. Just like if I were to compare natural medicine with pharmaceutical medicine, what's gonna rise to the top time and time again? It's always natural medicine. And we see this through time and again. It's just an observable fact, just like saying natural law. Natural law is all existent all around us. Does that mean we have to idolize it? No, but we can understand it and therefore harmonize our lives with it by acting in alignment with it. It's through
Mm.
understanding and education, not so much idling or worshiping. That's the exact opposite, right? And so it's more of that left brain masculine action side rather than idolizing on the right brain religious extreme. We don't need that. We can go through the center balance of the right and left brain. I know you've covered it in your recent videos. You're probably
Yeah,
going to mention that.
yeah,
But
yeah. No,
getting
dude, I
that
can't.
center path, right, the Unism path. Yeah,
Yes, I can't get enough of that.
that is
I've
how
been.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna say I can't get enough of the right brain left, or excuse me, yeah, the right brain left brain thing. I
Mm,
realized finally that the what we've been talking about for the past few years in Unism is the idea of transcending the left-right divide, and I always thought it was a political thing. We were talking about it in semi-concrete political terms, but I realized finally
right.
that it was a metaphor for the war that is going on between the left and the right brain, and the goal is not to
Yeah,
for the left to defeat the right brain or the right to defeat the left, but for a synthesis, which is essentially
yeah.
what I see as the phase we're undergoing, ever so slowly.
Hmm.
Um, but
And
uh,
Pine Tree's right in the chat. He's saying, he feels each side is at work. Each side is at work, but they're at different imbalances and sometimes different balances. And that's why
yes,
we study the brain chemistry to look at the left and the right brain hemisphere to see, are we also, too extreme on our limbic system or a mammalian brain or our
mm,
human neocortex? Those are also other parts that we can pay attention to that relate into this picture. It also comes down to energy, yin and yang energy
yeah,
also comes down to the same understanding. And so, yeah, Unism is this idea of bringing those together and sort of looking at the root universal. So this is how I like to make it. It's sort of an analogy. I like to look at a picture on a wall, right? I could zoom in and look at all the little pixels, but I could also zoom out and see the full picture. It's
yes,
sort of essential that we do both if we want to understand both the picture in depth and also the picture as a whole. If we do either or, we might miss some details that are really, really important. So
very, yeah,
it's sort of the zooming out and zooming in with that camera lens, if you will, using
yes.
modern day analogy.
No,
Yeah.
and that's
So
what
maybe that answered. Yeah.
that's what I think is
Sorry.
integral to kind of getting our what is it getting everything in order is using these kind of technical or technological metaphors to describe very human processes. But I do want to
Right.
return to this idea of making an idol out of nature. I think the idea of an idol is so integral to the concept of an image. And I really do think that the more
Hmm.
we, that just going back to the Ten Commandments, the idea that um, creating a graven image was essentially the rule. We kind of reframe it as have no other gods before me, I believe. But the idea, the commandment itself is the idea of creating an image, and the power that an image
Right.
has, I think, is, we've only scratched the surface to what an image means. Because every image, and we know this with memes, every image builds on
Hmm.
every previous image, such that
With
we've developed.
technology.
Exactly, it's technology. And so we're able to create these shortcuts, so to speak, which can perhaps get us to the finish line, but leave us feeling more empty than ever. And so, kind of recontextualizing how we use technology, or how technology uses us, is perhaps a way to sideline that kind of emptiness that we feel when we're caught up in the internet age.
Yeah, and I want to mention something, it says idle out of nature, but like, here's the deal. Natural law is a deterministic component of the right brain. This is part of the reason why some people have a
Mm,
hard time grasping such knowledge, and why they're so toward often religion into the religious forms of understanding, but not seeing the bigger picture of like
yes.
simple deism, or basically God's law, which is also called natural law.
Mm,
So saying making an idol out of nature, well, which one would you rather? Would you rather idolize man and create this government form of mass slavery and mass democide upon the people, or actually understand who truly rules above you, and that is God, or if you want to say nature, the universal laws at hand, right, that govern human consequence? So it's not
mm,
idolizing, it's understanding who our real master belongs in our
yes.
nature of nature, right? So this is two different natures, which is why I define the term as well, and which is why I also have a working definition of what this quote unquote movement is. So I have done the thinking on this, I have done the research, and it's simple observation. It's like I said, it's simple conversation. It's simply getting out there, our simple individual efforts, and bringing that to the mass public stage. And we can create mass amounts of impact with that. But having that time, and that time investment, the spiritual currencies, time and attention, going out there, out of our safe zones, our echo chambers, talking to people that don't always agree with us. That sounds like something we don't want to do. We have fears, our own personal fears and doubts along the way. We may say, we're against fear, we're against hate, and all this other stuff. But we, at the end of the day, we have to follow Gandhi's words here, where he says,
Mm,
to be the change.
mm,
And to be the change is to actively represent something that means something, to spark the dialogue, to create transition points. So that way you're not coming off too abstract or coming off too edgy to somebody, but you can also appeal to them to then open their mind, and they can open their own mind through their own research and attractions within their own life. So there's a
yes.
lot of different dependencies at hand. But at the end of the day, it's rather simple. It's courage, it's conversation, it's responsibility, it's guidance, and then that's manifested positive natural law expression, which is love, freedom,
Yes.
sovereignty, and order, ultimately, not chaos. The exact opposite of what people call anarchy is. Anarchy is all around us. Freedom is all around us. It got us everything that we see here. This Windows XP computer, it's all from freedom, folks.
Yes.
Seriously,
Yes.
best operating system ever.
Let's get back to some of these other questions. We got Peter here that said, "What does UNITA mean
Sure.
by return to nature?" I guess we kind of spoke on this already. Influences on
Hmm.
that, and then he
Okay.
says, "Outlook on convergence of catastrophes 2020 to 2030."
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you have probably a lot of thoughts on this one too, because these are things a lot of people are talking about as well. But return to nature, you see time and time again. Just nobody has really brought that into a grounding movement for people to get behind. Just sort of like Unism is like this kind of alternative to the left and right system, and trying to bridge the gap, and also help people reach this new form of nonviolent communication
Hmm.
to see the more universal ideas. It's basically the same concept at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
so we can all use different strategies, but the truth is the truth. And as long as the truth is out there, moreover, then that's all that matters. And the truth is what simply is. It's all that has been and all that is going on now.
Yes.
That is what truth can be defined as, if we want to put it simply. But return to nature may be a return to our roots. And I'm not necessarily saying, okay, let's live in the forest like caveman and, without technology. And no, it has nothing to do with that. It's about understanding nature, the nature of what technology does to us. Is it going to dehumanize us? Is it going to denature us? Are we putting our dependency in it and therefore giving up and suppressing our own human nature and its own expression? There's different questions to be asked upon this. Return to nature is generally just a simple thing. If I were to say simple right off the bat, yeah, it's what most people see it as, and they can generally agree with it, which is why this is a good bridge point to natural law or to these universal concepts. Is saying nature's the answer. Most people can agree with that. If people work in an office job, they want to go somewhere toward the country to help themselves feel better for vacation. You notice their body has a natural tendency to want to escape those modern day environments that put them under so much stress. So in regards to return to nature, I think that's one of the most obvious examples. But if we were to bring that to the world stage of statism and how most people are involved with government, this sort of political idea where we just take people out of their homes, they can fight for foreign countries, they're fighting people, their own humankind overseas for some master of their own, telling them this is for some sort of idea. It's all this big brainwashing operation, frankly, if I just want to say what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not something it's natural. You don't naturally just escape your family and your home and everything you've built to go fight off for some country you don't even know, for some politicians that never even fought in the war themselves and you don't even know them. And you're going to fight for them overseas in some place you don't even know, against some people that you don't even know why they did something wrong. You were just convinced that they did something wrong. This is just absolutely crazy to me, but this is how our world works. Like that meme you showed earlier with the caveman, like saying, what in the world is this world, right? He looked at the lady like, what is this? Non-carb? What is this? And it's like, yeah, this is our world. Like we are denatured ourselves because we are detached from our universal roots. Those universal wisdom, if you will. And it would have helped if the generations through time passed on that wisdom, to which they did to some great extent. But what can we pass on as a generational message as mission is what I say. And that is what this Nature's the Answer movement is. It's a movement as message as mission. So it's something to accomplish through the generations. After my time, my children will take it on. They will have the same resources I had. I'm not making myself a target because we're all part of this change here. And we can all move forward with these same resources. We all have the potential to change no matter what time and day it is, just with different limitations. And the longer we wait and the more we just let evil run amok in our world, good people letting evil run amok, that's how we get mass democide, is good people letting wrong things go on. That's how we see most things happen. And they're convinced that, they don't need to do anything about it.
Let's catch up with where the chat is at. I think Jesse Dunstan said it very well. The path to a happy life and a return back to nature is through starting your own farm and living the rest of your life working that return to nature. So it is a process. We're not talking about what's the one thing we need to do and then we'll be finally happy. No, it is a kind of the journey is the destination and the work is the reward. Again, we always forget, we always look for the outcome, but doing the thing, and this is what technology robs from us in some sense, which is it does the work for us. It alienates us from our own ability to do work or even to be alienated by work. That's the thing that you create such an abstraction when suddenly your job is lost to at a supermarket to an instant checkout machine, because now you no longer can even be alienated at work to reach the realization that you were alienated. It even revokes that, it alienates you from alienation itself, which is not a double negative, it's even worse than negative. It's like a super negative. Also let's see, I think that timestamp guy, let's hear from Agency
By the way,
Stored in the Book.
I mean, if I worship nature, I wouldn't be going out there taking action upon human nature. This is the idea, is that we're within nature, and therefore we have our own roles and responsibilities as well. We don't just
This
sit back and let everything manifest like the Tao says. We learn from the Tao, but we also learn to the great extent to which action is necessary for inaction. Something
exactly.
I talk about is the balance between inaction and action, to which the whole
Mm.
Tao book is about irony and the whole concept between the two. So that's just to really finish up that point. If I was really worshiping nature, I'd do nothing. I would just sit around worshiping nature, but I'm not. I'm going out there in a human stage. I'm talking about universal ideas that we can all try to get behind. And through personal conversation, one-on-one, creating questions, actively listening, that is totally possible. That's why I have a shirt, health coach. Yeah, so what? I'm a health coach. What does that mean? I'm just here to help guide people as a fellow human being, right? I don't need a fancy title to do so. We all
No.
have this ability, the human brain. We were born with it. It's consciousness.
Yes, very very well said. And again, this idea, like you're saying, of between the connection between inaction and action, and as well man as a part of nature or as something distinct from nature. Simone Weil is a French philosopher who has the idea of metaxu that she actually got from Socrates, which is the idea that the
Heard of that?
separation is the link, and so the thing that we think separates us is the thing that actually joins us, and I think that kind of ties that together. So
Yeah.
Philip Burnson says, "Return to monkey, like Ted says," and he's talking about Ted Kaczynski there, or integrate these ideas and
Oh,
try to create a new working system. What are your thoughts, Cory?
okay. I need to find where that is that a comment in the
Yeah,
or is
that's
that a are you reading that from a quote?
no. This is Philip Burnson, maybe like 10, 20 or 15 comments ago. Return to monkey, like
Okay.
Ted says. This is the idea. Return to monk is kind of a meme going around right
Oh
now,
yes,
which
yes,
is,
yes. I
yeah.
see.
Is that the
Right.
plan? Is the idea
Yeah.
that we
So
need to de-evolve, so to speak, or is the idea that we need to compromise and consolidate what exists into an evolution of that? Do we go forward by going backwards, or go backwards by going forward?
humanity will learn either way. The whole point of this movement is to reduce the harm of that turn, is what I say. And that turn is the democide done through every annual amount of years.
Mm.
As we saw in World War II, the estimated amount of deaths were in the millions. So what I'm trying to do is simply just reduce the harm being done for this cycle that is going to come upon ourselves. Because I saw a comment too asking, about catastrophes. Yes, I do see catastrophe coming within the next couple of years of a global financial collapse and so forth. I think a
Yes.
lot of people have been talking about that within the independent media. So if you're interested, I encourage you, look it up for yourself. Don't trust my word on anything. Please look into these concepts for yourself. Now, Philip, I know maybe asked some interesting questions there, like who is able to get 100% of the truth? I'm not
Yeah.
claiming to have 100% of truth. And he says, don't universal ideas seem pretty naive? So I would encourage, if you haven't looked into Mark Passio's natural law seminar, you do, but universal ideas are that of which we can all get behind because they're innately within the universe. So they're observable and testable within your own life. Once you know what they are, then you can observe within your own life. So you don't need
Mm.
me to tell you, if this is sure or if this is true. You can see it for yourself. So I encourage you to do that internal research and external research by getting out there, mind, heart, guts, caring enough to know enough to act, as Mark Passio would put it. And so
Mm.
we do want to integrate these ideas. I said, right, I started this whole talk with you. I was like, I want to integrate with Unism. I want to bring our ideas together. I think we each have a lot to offer for the world, and a movement per se of bringing people together around ideas and then moving that into the world and trying to make more of an impact. I think an impact is where we should be looking next, right? Talking about strategy, tactic is how do we make the most amount of impact? And so he said, try to create a new working system. Well, it's not that we have to create a new working system. We have to understand all that is working currently within the universe already within itself, the system that is innate within the universe. Because what we're doing right now is trying to replace that system. And that's why man is acting as God or acting as nature when he has no right to, and therefore he's violating the rights of many human beings by doing so. So
Yes.
again, your rights come by natural law, and that's why it's such a very important topic. Which is why I have a link for it on the website. You go to NITA.1 and you just go down to the button and it says learn more, and it's the advanced button, so it's NITA.1/advanced, and you'll see there's presentations there, even Larkin Rose videos, because they really sum up the universal concepts that are here that we can all understand with just a little bit of common sense and human reasoning. I'm afraid that's also going away because we are being dehumanized. So this is perhaps one of the best chances in time to change the world. And as the world also collapses, that also could be a really good pivotal time for change. The only problem is that other movements will arise, a lot of counter opposition.
Yes.
There will be plants, put into movements to make them seem illegitimate. There'll be attacks from the media and so forth. But the people must understand that those people in the media are still human. The celebrities are still human. They can be detached, in different ways, but they're still human. You must have faith in individuals to heal
Yes.
their own body. This is very powerful. The idea of faith. In the Tytler cycle, we go from dependency and bondage back to faith, and that's what starts this cycle over again, the cycle of government. I have a video for it, and it's about a 300-year cycle. We're about within that process as well, sort of like the Roman Empire 2.0 that America is. So maybe that answers some of your questions there. We're not creating a new working system. We're creating a generational message as mission for the world ahead into seeing the universal ideas and keeping that into circulation. Right? How do you bring the natural law to people, and how do you keep it into circulation so that way no government can rise up again and no slavery can manifest, because people know their own rights, they know themselves, and they know what is essentially all around them. And they're not confused from who they are anymore. Therefore, they're not divided and put in an imbalance or an illusion.
Okay, let's catch up with amazing stuff, Cory. Let's keep going. There's so many incredible comments here.
Sorry if I talk about a lot.
No, dude. This is what we're doing. This is what it's all about, man. I love it. I love it all. So, okay, so okay, let me just read this old comment from Agency of Stored in the Ball. It said, when I think of Unism, I think of balance, like the balance between holding sacred both image of man and nature. I'm speaking to an over-socialization, or you might say a gratuitous worship of nature. And yes, I think we've established that you can't lean too far into that. So the balance is where we need to find ourselves. Right. Catching up then...
not too much action, but also not too little, like I mentioned.
Yes, exactly. The right amount, the balance. Kniffin says, this is a quote, he's saying, the worst part of the punishment is that he who refuses to rule is liable to be ruled by one who is worse than himself. And this is, again, action versus inaction, that dichotomy that we find ourselves where, and this is also very much a principle or a dynamic of capitalism, which is if left alone, it will continually get worse. Many other systems are such. Let me see. Okay, so that timestamp guy brings
There's
up
a lot of good points being...
Yeah, I know. There's too many. So once that timestamp guy says, so natural instinct is right instinct, ? What naturally is urged by our blank is what ought, and what ought is what ought be done always and always. So it's basically saying, is this a universal totem or something? Is this a universalist law that we can make? Natural instinct equals right instinct. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to equate here instinct to gut feeling, right? You have a gut feeling, you need to act and do something. Yeah, well, here's the deal. You want intuition for action. If you act without intuition, then you're likely going to make a lot of mistakes. So like I said, this comes down to education and knowledge. Your instinct can do a lot. Your gut can do a lot. And your gut is what creates the change in this world. So we need to focus on the gut. But we cannot forget the brain and the heart. And so we need to care enough. We need to know enough. And if we don't have the knowledge or the care, then our instincts are going to take us over and sort of create an imbalance, an extreme, if you will. So I would say, yeah, natural instinct is right instinct, but so is natural heart and natural brain and natural being as a whole. And that is to use, again, our human brain that we were born with. Other animals don't have that human neocortex that is able to do that higher order thinking. We're suppressed lately, the masses, at least of the modern world, are suppressed into reptile brain, which is survival based, and mammalian brain. So it's very fear-based. It's very reactionary. Okay, I see a meme, I see something on the internet, it just pops at my attention. It's a quick, boom, 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 very fast-paced world
Yeah.
that we create for ourselves, and we look for those spontaneous reactions, which is why when we click on a link, we want to see it respond immediately. When we click like on Facebook, whatever, if you still use that horrible platform, uh, there's psychology behind that because 𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤, the father of propaganda, also designed a lot of that. So there was intent to create those systems that be,
Yeah.
and that intent did not always take into account our nature and how it would affect us through time. And what do we see? We see a very anti-social world. And if we want to change the world, we must affect the social aspect of society and the cultural aspect of society. Now, social can be political, political can be social. It doesn't have to be about taking over other people's rights. And cultural can be everything creative that comes from social ability, but also just arts, expression, me speaking, you speaking, cooking. Any sort of form of art is powerful within itself because it makes up the society. So you change the culture, you change the social fabric of society, and therefore you change the whole world naturally. And that's why I say this is a natural way to change the world, is because you understand what changes the world naturally. It's these simple aspects that, if done in mass circulation of manifestation, they can create mass amounts of change and for generations to come, especially if they have a message to bring it on and continue it on through the generations.
Yes. Okay. There's also Philip Burnson asks, how do we make these things into memes? So we kind of, I think, mentioned this before the
Yeah,
stream. Um, what are your kind of thoughts on
that's
um,
important.
yeah, yeah? What do you think?
It's really important. So, and I was more toward conservative. Maybe some people can relate here, or maybe not. Whatever. But basically, I was more conservative, like toward 2016, 2015, or whatever. And basically, I didn't know much about statism at the time, or natural law, or any of those aspects. Even though I had nature as my, as the idea that I kept bridging to, I didn't go to the full extreme of understanding the universal concepts that existed into saying, well, does government actually have the right to exist here? And so, I really brought that then to understanding, okay, well, we can apply this to a lot of different situations. It is the answer. So we ask questions. We ask the questions. We know where the answers are. We go about the answers and we bring about more answers. Now, the magic to that process is in trivium, quadrivium, and so forth. But the memes, right? We need to have memes because we saw with Trump, right? He had a movement. He turned a political party into a movement, and that's what made it effective. And we
Yes.
must know that. We must understand that. And this is why I talked with the Libertarian Party as well, because they just keep failing. And it's like, guys, if you want some help, here are some ideas. A lot of them are still very close-minded to it, though, because they don't see anarchy yet as this perhaps good thing. They're all over the place. They think, okay, let's just accept everybody, and then have no grounding or universal understanding upon things, and therefore it leaves everything in the air. Like, I even went over their website, the Libertarian Party's like statement of principles,
Mm,
and it basically is very broad. It's saying, okay, our rights were equal, but it doesn't say, how we're equal, why we're
yeah.
equal, and so forth. And that's very big questions to ask that are very important, because if you don't understand where your rights come from, and what those rights are and so forth, then that's why you don't have them. That's why you're not keeping them.
Yes.
It's the very educational understanding within itself that matters the most. And so if people know how to lead themselves, they will. The problem with
Yeah.
this world is they don't, and they think that they can't, because they've been convinced that they can't, and that they need
Conditioned.
some sort
Yeah.
of leader to rule. Right. Now, the libertarians, I've actually got a lot of them on my side because I've been using this idea of nature as a bridge, and I think it's something that works
Yes.
across religion as well. It works across everywhere, which is why it's so powerful as a message. And so that's why I have it there as something. And you don't have to use nature as the answer, but we just need something to get behind that can help bring people together. Unism is just the other perfect example of this. We don't need to put it under this title or that logo. It doesn't have to be like that. Just
No.
the ideas. Again, the truth getting out there as a whole within itself is powerful, because people these logos and stuff are just to represent ideas. They're not to represent some government that's ruling over people's lives and so forth. We're surrounded by logos on a daily basis.
Yeah.
From commercial advertisement and so forth. And most of that is to subliminally, cause us to want to buy, consume into this material world. And so what we're doing here is making the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, to which they are one and the same, which is what we can do with our human bodies. So it's
What the
powerful
Yeah,
when we
can I
use our
say
resources properly.
to that
Hmm.
end, the idea, and this is just kind of maybe consolidating many of the things that you've just said. I think that bridge, which you've defined or that you've suggested, is nature. The bridge, I think that we need to take in, if I can get a little bit spiritual, is the logos, which is an idea
Yeah,
of word,
God,
sort of a God incarnate
word from
in
God.
word. And it goes back to Plato's
Yeah,
world of forms, and that this is the bridge. And so our logos for Unism, or from nature is the answer, essentially constitute a form, some maybe very minor form of logos. And nature being that bridge, I think, works just on another level. So, yeah.
yeah, and like you said too, the whole point of this live stream too is to not let our egos get in the way. And so it's good people are asking questions that are also challenging our viewpoints in the chat. And it's good that we open up this conversation more and more. It's necessary that we do that, and which is why I'm trying to reach out to people like High Impact Flicks and so forth, and which is why I'm willing to have this collaboration and so forth. I think
Yeah.
what we can do is maybe bring this to High Impact Flicks, show him there's a community of, there's many people who want to create some sort of conversation about getting the world together on this path that we can all move forward to in a coordinated action to increase our presence and make more of an impact.
Mm.
Something I see David Icke is doing is at least creating rallies, or at least creating
Yes.
in real
Yes.
life change of bringing people together and saying, guys, look around you. And then people join in on the crowds. They see what's going on. It's unavoidable. The media has no choice but to cover it sometimes. And
Yep.
therefore, they're increasing their presence in the presence of those ideas. That's
Yes.
powerful. Now, the only thing that they're missing is they don't have some sort of, again, unifying movement to bring those ideas around. So they're still
Mm.
all kind of scrambled about,
Yep.
and they
Putting the
coming
pieces
together, which is
together. Yeah.
great. Right. But what if you had that worldwide as some sort of idea, as movement? Then we'd see a very powerful bridge of unity.
Yes. Let's
And
go
that
back.
idea of unity is central to your idea. So,
Yeah. Speaking to what you said about the questions people have, and sort of checking our
mhm.
ego, so to speak, Danny Duberstein
Yeah.
a little bit ago says, "How should I decide how much I need to unlearn before I start learning again? By which standards or senses should I ascertain what mental constructs have denatured me?" Incredible question.
That is a really good question. Now, the most obvious one that most people can grasp onto is technology, right?
Yes.
The other one is greatly, however, government, and that is often self-imposed, however, by way of statism. So it really comes down to your own life. I think I shouldn't have to be the one to answer those questions for you in your own life, for I don't even know how you live your own life. And this is something that is really introspective for your own work. And this is why it's called The One Great Work by Mark Passios. It requires time and dedication in learning of your own habits. What are you pulling onto? What extremes and mental patterns are you pulling onto? Um, Look at the relationships within your life. It's about just the simple things at the end of the day. Those are the aspects of nature that we're losing. If you're wondering what aspects are being denatured, you'll notice reproduction is being targeted, the social status is being targeted, people just simply getting together is being targeted. Now it's like masks are mandated. Talk about denaturing. It's becoming more and more just evident and just right in your face by the day how this is happening. It's like a
Yeah.
second limb now. We have to have it on our face. And we're going to have more like that as, robots sort of merge with, humans or whatever we want to call
Yes.
it. I'm not against it, by the way. I'm not against technology. And a
Mm-hmm.
book is a form of technology. A lot of
Yes.
things are forms of technology. As I said, images are a form of technology.
Well,
But we must understand their nature again and
Yes.
what they impact on our nature. So that's the whole idea of education. And
Well,
so what is denaturing us is ultimately up to you, because I want you to do that work for yourself. The whole
mm,
idea of this is that you are the movement, and you find
yeah.
where nature's answer is within your own life. You may not
Mm,
see it everywhere yet or within different places, but it is everywhere in different ways, because there's a nature of each and everything in existence. Otherwise, it
mm.
wouldn't exist. Everything's created with a reason. That's
That's a good
cause and
point to
effect.
mention
That's
the
natural law.
yeah, to mention nature as more than just what would you say?
Exactly.
Yeah, more than just
The
plants
world.
and animals. There is a nature to
Yeah.
everything, and there's a continuity of nature, and there is
Hmm.
a nature to nature as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can just keep going down and down. It's like a rabbit hole, nature, and it keeps going. But that's how much we can look into this society, and we realize we want to keep it simple. Generally speaking, it should be simple.
Yeah.
That's also another idea of nature you can get out of it. It's just simplicity. It can get really complex if we look into it. We look into all the chemistry and what's going on behind the scenes, but generally speaking, it's simple at the end of the day. And humans tend to overcomplexify things with more responsibilities, adding more responsibilities to our lives, even though they're claiming it's making it easier. Now, it's funny. We have all this technology, we have all this stuff to make our lives easier, but we still take that for granted, and we still add other responsibilities, and then we forget about the simple things, and we overlook the simple things, and then we have to go back to our roots naturally. It happens by itself. I don't even have to tell you for it to happen. I'm just simply recognizing and telling you that it's happening. See, like,
Noticing.
I'm not adding anything new into existence,
No.
and nor is you, right? We're just
No.
recognizing what is here and
Yes,
what is all about
exactly.
us.
Exactly. It's noticing. And noticing the noticing is the step that comes after, and I guess presence precedes that, as you were mentioning earlier. So yeah, the act of noticing, there's some nexus of power in that, and it begins to multiply at a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I have something called multiplicative expression. If you want to
Hmm.
pull up like a chart, I have that in one of my presentations, or maybe I could send
Yeah.
it to you if you'd like.
Let me.
But
What is that
basically,
on the?
multiplicative expression.
Yeah, send it to me in the channel or in
Sure.
the DMs in Discord, and I'll pull it up for us real quick.
Yeah. For those in the chat, if you've watched Mark Passer, or you're familiar with his work, or maybe even Larkin Rose or anybody else within those communities, put like a 1 in chat if you're familiar with his work, or just let us know if you know if you ever seen his stuff.
Yeah, they seem to be mentioning Mark Paseo. We'll wait until the ones or twos come in, but yeah, I think people seem to be very familiar with him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think he's made a great impact, and he will continue to for the generations because of what he said, right? What he's presented, he's put massive amount of effort into, and people may call him controlled opposition or whatever all they
Hmm.
want, but the reality is that he lives in the same state as me. He's in Philadelphia. I'm like way way far north than him. Pennsylvania's a very big state. It's like Texas, but he barely lives like on a budget. I mean, let's just say that. And his team is very kind. I know his producer well, and the people that work with him. He's got like a small group of people. It's honestly it's very cool to see such a generation, like a very genuine operation like that, and how
Hmm.
much time and effort he puts into things is just unbelievable. He's got books stacked of research that he's done, and the amount of childhood experiences that he also had to go through, being involved with the Satanic Church and
Wow.
Freemasonry is just unbelievable. So that's why he has a lot of great insight upon this matter. And he too is like has some anger that has to pop up, righteous anger, just getting out there, that energy, and people are
Hmm.
feeling that energy and they're coming to terms with it. So going back to the memes and Trump brought in that energy that people need, and they don't always understand, but that's what brings in this these new generations, is that energy is like inspiring. It wants them to get out there. It's what helped inspire me to some extent. It's
Yeah.
just getting out there and creating that conversation, getting involved. And just being genuine within itself was powerful enough. So regardless of anything Trump has done, being human or more human or having a more funny side to you is actually powerful enough to create a lot of change. And you'll see this within any new government system as well. Like people like Gandhi, he was super loving. I mean, even Hitler, he was seen as inspirational for many people there at the time. And that inspirational energy that they brought to their nations is what created change within itself. It caused people to say, I want to go out there, or I want to go do something,
Yeah.
They stopped being lazy. They started getting out there because they felt something that they can connect to themselves. So they
Yes.
realized their own power.
Yes, that is what it is. And again, we're going back to the noticing idea that really is awakening to the to what is there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I saw the chat. Wait, history isn't fiction? Yeah, no, yeah, definitely history is fiction for sure.
Right.
But there's always been people who were visionaries who like changed the cultures, but they made themselves a target, and they always ended up getting assassinated or whatnot. You see this time and time again, and the whole idea of we be the change is that everybody here, can be part of the change. Now, agency. I know you're writing in the chat. You said he's based, but naturalism is all wrong. If you want to explain that real quick in the chat, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Why is that wrong? Now, I don't like to go by ism words, by the way. I mean, personally, I know there's a lot of naturalist writers that I'm familiar with. Doesn't mean I agree with them at all. So if you want to just elaborate on that and your view of naturalism, I'd
Yeah,
appreciate
and Cory,
that.
while he's elaborating on that, what was the image, or what you said, the multi-textual, or what was it? Or you had
I
a?
sent that to you in the Discord
Oh, you did. Okay. All
because you
right.
told me to
Perfect.
send to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to keep the website very simple on purpose. I want to keep it something that everybody can get behind. It's a website I made for everybody, not for me. I don't have my own content on the website. It's separate away from the website on purpose because I'm just part of the website. I am
Yes.
not the website. I am not the movement. I am not God. I'm not nature. I'm simply another human being understanding it as you are too. And we all deserve our very worthy voices here in the matter. But we do need to create action around the things that we can agree upon simply at the end of the day, which is freedom and love and just getting together. If we keep worrying about all the semantics and little detail, then nothing will ever get done,
No,
folks.
exactly, and it's like you said earlier, which is, this is we're just taking part in this until someone else will take over for us, until our children or someone else will take the mantle. And again, it's not, the action is necessary, but it's not anything special about us. We're just the ones that took action. And we're just waiting for you
Right.
guys to join us, and that's what the circle. I think someone asked a while what the idea of is. The circle is everything essentially. It's the world. It's the circle of friends. It's the circle
Yeah.
that we find ourselves in when we create a sacred space for creating change, or this turning that you're talking about.
And if anybody ever really needs help with this, especially within their own life, or they have trouble with their family and so forth, and they need a firm grounding, before they start going out into the world taking action, sometimes that is needed. Definitely, you need something to rely on. You need people that are close to you that you can definitely always have by your side and know that you'll always have with you. If you want, you can go to NITA.1/chat, okay, and you'll see there's a Discord link on there for you guys, and you could always join our meetings where we talk. He also has it in the description of this video, in this live stream, and you can see we have the Discord for Nature's the Answer. There's many folks in there. They like to share their own stuff. You're always welcome to share your own works. Of course, that's the whole point of this, is that we're all creative and so forth. And by the way, if you're questioning what statism is and if it's actually good and so forth, I would encourage you look into what the nature of statism is. So if somebody asked what if statism is good though, well, I'll ask you, what makes you think statism is good? Objectively by natural law. And if you don't understand natural law, then maybe that's a good point to start out with. However, if you don't, that's okay. We can also talk about it in other terms. Right? We can just talk about it like nature. I could say natural law or nature. I could say it's two in the same thing.
Well,
And
let me
natural law
take
is just part
the
of it.
I'll take the point of the kind of, not devil's advocate, but I'll take the point which is, okay, well,
Okay,
statism is good
sure.
because it allows us to create better things, industrialize, and organize things in a way
Mhm.
that allows us to reap more comfort and benefits from the world around us. It allows us to exist the way that we do because of statism. I would say that's the kind of the argument. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say, where did those things actually come from, though? Like those good things that you actually say come from. Do they
Hmm.
actually come from having some politician in office where they have to presume, rights to rule over you? Because that's what statism is. It's upholding the rights that some individuals have the legitimate moral right to rule over you. So if you can present a moral argument, then that's where I would like to see it. And most likely, what statists will do is they'll present a moral argument that is along moral relativism, which means
Hmm.
they can just be subjective. There's no objective morality through that lens. So it's basically saying I can just decide whatever it wants to be for myself, and therefore I can play God, and I can just decide how the world manifests. Basically, you build roads. People build roads. Everybody builds roads. They need roads. They build roads. It's not very difficult to flatten out a surface. We also have phones, which makes it even easier. Larkin Rose covers these details in specific videos for people because they don't understand these questions. And then, same thing goes with food. Then you can apply the same logic, but like, we have to pay a middleman to do the work that we want to do directly.
Hmm.
In fact, it's always better to do it directly, get that direct relationship. Same thing with insurance companies and so forth. You can see it through many different lenses, whether you use government as the example or not. Statism is simply the belief in authority. So if we're talking about statism in particular, it's simply the belief in authority. What makes you think that somebody has the legitimate right to rule over your life and property than you,
Hmm.
right? Who owns your own life and property? It's only you. You own yourself. That's a self-evident truth to nature.
Hmm.
Now, if you have something to say in opposition to that, go ahead,
Well,
because
I
you're
would,
taking the opposing view.
yeah, I would just say that essentially the only thing I would say about statism is that we need the middleman so that we realize we don't need the middleman. That is, we need to go through the experience of statism in order
Mm-hmm.
to discover how ancillary and how useless or how
We have.
detrimental it is. Well,
Yeah, I
that's
think we already have. I mean, World War II was the
exactly.
perfect example.
Well, that's what's so interesting about
Yeah, and
leftism.
and showing how America was like very rooted, right? Like traditional values, like very minimal state, so forth. But that manifests into a bigger government, inevitably, especially with international interests, which we can get into because I see there's a question with that. But go ahead.
Yes.
What were you saying? Because that was
Well,
interesting.
the idea is essentially that hey, we should have learned a lesson, right? Well, then, why can't we? Why didn't we learn the lesson from the Soviet Union? Why are there still communists to this day? I would say that is because of the dominance of left brain thinking, as essentially leftism is
Yeah,
synonymous with left brain. By which I mean left brain tells you the things about yourself that are not necessarily in tune with reality. Whoops, excuse me. That are not necessarily in
yeah.
tune
I
with
mean, I wouldn't
realities.
equate. Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't
sometimes
maybe
they're
equate
better, sometimes they're worse than
leftist,
reality.
but
But
yeah.
yeah, how would you equate it?
Well, I wouldn't equate leftist with left brain ideology. I equate both the right side of politics and the left side of politics as both left brain
Yes,
extremism,
yes,
but
yes,
also
yes.
right brain
That is a
extremism.
great point.
Both
Yes.
just aspects of each. Um, because if we leave out one side or the other, then we're again focusing on a symptom, which is why we look at the universal. So that way, we're not focused on symptoms, and therefore the cause is not being seen,
Mm.
and therefore we never actually heal or treat the disease, prevent it. Right? And what we're doing here is prevention. So if we don't want democide to ever happen again, we must prevent democide, and the only way to do that is by getting rid of statism. If it weren't for the millions that followed Stalin or Hitler, there wouldn't be that government in place to create such an external casualty of an external war. We wouldn't even have a war to identify if we lived in a world of freedom, true freedom,
Hmm.
which is a world
Yes.
that's totally possible when we understand our own rights. So there wouldn't even be a war to identify, at least, because there's nothing manifested to create such an idea that a war is about. And as we know, most wars are used anyways for power grabs and just continuing that cycle of statism and bringing it to even higher extremes. It just keeps going higher and higher until everything just tumbles down. And that's what we're seeing with society is, they sort of want to collapse society and bring that into this new society that has world peace and harmony and so forth. And I'm not trying to say the same thing. They're going to use it through the lens of still having somebody in charge or still having many aspects of statism involved. I'm saying we can live directly in alignment with nature, and that's all we need. We don't need really much else from that. It's actually quite simple at the end of the day. But because of our complexity of the world and how denatured we've come to be, these ideas seem harder to grasp. That's not to say I have any moral high ground whatsoever, okay? Because somebody said, we have a moral high ground. What matters is power and the tools to attain it. And it will always be easier to trick people into statism than to get them to follow natural law. I'm not saying that it's easier for people to fall into statism. I think that they never were even introduced natural law. That's the problem, is that they don't even know it exists. People were never even taught it in school. It's not some higher ground. It's simply recognizing what is here that isn't being recognized. And that's why I talk about it so much. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I made so many videos upon the subject. It's because it's not being talked about, right? So it's reasonable for me to make many different videos and many different topics and to talk about it being more of a solution because it's not manifested within reality. So that's kind of what answers that comment there in the chat. How do we defend ourselves from other states without a state? Well, okay, let's say China hasn't woken up from this matter, even though they're still humans. So you want to try to bring this knowledge to them, who's in China, so they can break away from their own government as well. Let's say China still has that centralized system because they're mostly under communism. They have everybody under control. So it's easier and more likely that they would exist with a government when the rest of the world has woken away. If they do, and if that's the case, people will still come together and defend against the governments that are intruding. Therefore, you don't need to defend yourselves from other states that come into to change. If they are, the mass amount of people are going to be like, hey guys, look what's going on. Look, we have media, we have technology. Just because we live in a free world doesn't mean we don't have those things. You don't think we are connected? You don't think there's some organizations or companies? No, there's going to be way more businesses than ever having a free world. It's going to be a very creative
That's
world.
interesting.
Let's memes everywhere.
Let me catch up with they're bringing up some interesting points vis-a-vis natural law. Agency is stored in the ball says, I mean, you put a lot of stock in your ability to discern what is natural, perhaps empirically, and you also seem to make the assumption these natural laws or processes are immutable. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Modern 90 says self-evident truths as a concept is one of the most cringe things ever. Okay, bro. But what are your thoughts, Cory? How do we discern empirically or not what is natural or how things like natural law could even exist? Is this just another deception that we've fallen for, or is there something beneath or beyond it that is a truer truth?
Like I said, it's observable within your own life. You can experiment it within your own life, and therefore, I mean, it's really up to you at the end of the day. But I will say that natural law goes through many different names. It goes through God's law, it goes through cause and effect, it goes through karmic law, and you can look up these. It also goes by consequentialism. So it's essentially cause and effect. What you do creates a result.
Yes.
And so those are laws, just like any other laws within nature. If I do something, there will be a result. Therefore, it is natural because it's innate within the universe, and humankind did not create that. It is simply here within us, all around us. If you look at the definition of natural, I even have it on a terminology sheet I'll be making in the coming weeks. But it's also defined in Mark Passio's own seminar. He said he goes through the word natural, he goes through the word law, he brings them together, he goes through all that process. What is natural is simply that of which is already here, that of which is original, that of which has basis in reality. So maybe that answers your question. You can also go to websites like the etymology dictionary, and you can find the oldest definitions of words. That way they weren't tampered with. That's just an FYI for people who like to research. I like to give out those resources for people.
Yes, etymology is very important.
And I know a lot of...
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, though, what we're doing here is sometimes arguing about semantics, but we need to also talk about strategy. I'm sure agency, instead of focusing on all these differences that we may have, these small little things, I'm sure generally we can have a a general consensus upon what we both see within our own lives and what is all around us. Like I said, right? We generally want love, we want free world. Does it have to be all this complex? Do we have to put it under the mask of any ism or and so forth?
Hmm.
No, we don't have to. Let's
No.
focus on what we can do within our own lives. I want to see you taking action. I want to see you going out there, doing your efforts, and then we can talk. We can talk about how we can create more change. But we need to do that more than anything, because right now they have their strategies, and I'm talking about the one agenda, two counter, which I say is statism, but it's also government. It's also the power systems that be, the few at the top. They're planning out everything. They have everything, laid out for themselves. And what do we have? We don't have this structured blueprint to want to move forward ahead with coordinated action. We don't have that. They do. And that's why they have the upper ground here, is because they know what's going on, and we are scrambled around, divided, fighting one another. And we have no middle ground, no universal root of truth. We don't even think it exists. We think everything is subjective. We can just be
Yeah.
God. That's why everybody thinks science, if anything, is objective.
Yeah.
And definitely left brain, like you said,
Yeah.
is more of the dominance here. And therefore, it also puts a lot of people in right brain thinking into thinking that also helps them escape the system. Thinking, oh, well, if I just meditate all day, or if I just live in peace, everything will be okay.
Right.
Yeah, but you also need to take action. Necessary action is a thing. You have to defend love,
Yes.
defend the intuition. And we're just defending what is here. We're defenders of nature, Mother
Yes.
Nature, if you will, the nurturer, the carer. We're defending the feminine aspect of society that is under attack by the masculine dominant trying to destroy all that is here, essentially.
In that same vein, I would say that love very much is the antidote to fear. Um, they can't
Well,
exist
that chart, right? The
simultaneously.
chart says it.
Okay, there we go. So exactly. Let me bring that back. Um, yes, it very much is, and I know maybe you guys have caught on. I almost again for the third week in a row it would have been forgot that we meant to do Cory knot tying exercises. We meant to use the time during the stream a little bit more effectively and start tying knots. So I've just included the video without introduction. Longtime viewers will know know what's going on, but for the people that just see the knots going on, maybe a little confusing. But yeah, it is.
Yo,
It
and
is here.
also, Pylos, Mother Nature is not gay. I'll tell you this, all right? You'll see how bad it is in a couple of years. You'll see when everybody's scrambling about and the world is in chaos. That's actually natural chaos, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's because of the manifestation, which, doesn't have to be seen as all too unnatural either. It's simply we chose our own path for ourselves. And also, if you live out in nature, it's a pretty rough world out there, okay? It's not, yeah, exactly. It's a ruthless killer. So I wouldn't say
Yes.
it's all that, rainbows and sparkly and unicorns. Just
By no means. By no means. Nature is a bitch for sure. But that's the
that's why it's great.
exactly. That's why it's great. It is your feelings don't matter. The tsunami is going to crush you. The tornado will lift
Yeah.
you off the ground. But it is through that mercilessness of nature that we can birth a mercy, and that we can birth love. Through that cruelty, we can birth a love. And I think it's nature is in some senses the antithesis to the thesis of humanity, and that's why they make such a great union. And again, the separation is the link. We are clearly a part of nature, and yet, as we understand ourselves as distinct from it, we can, in effect, bring nature to its full fruition, which is as a steward and as a shepherd in some senses of nature.
Yeah. And I know somebody said, natural is not good. Yeah, I'm not saying natural is good. I'm saying nature is the answer. I didn't say that nature is the good answer. I said it's the answer. It's generally open for conversation on purpose. It's dependent on our human nature usage. Like all the materials that are on the website, for example, the front page, right under why join the movement is called the share sheet. It's just simply a list of topic points that talk about why nature is the answer, and you'll see it's because of the nature world. It's simply, again, education and understanding. That's what it is. It's there to create conversation. It's not there to give you all the answers. The answers within nature. Why should I tell you? You can find out for yourself. And
And
honestly, there has to be that openness. People may doubt that they might want all the answers from me in the world, but I'm sure you know them too if you look into it and you stop being so dependent on other people to tell you for you. I don't want to tell you for you, because I know that you have a human ability. Why should I have my ego rule over anybody? Why should I impose my ideas upon others? That's the whole idea of politics, is how do we decide how to impose our opinions upon others? I don't want to do that, you know?
right. No, exactly. And that's the thing of finding out for ourselves. Again, the work is the reward. That's what you realize. And time is a good metaphor for this. There's nothing more annoying than the girl who, instead of looking at her phone or doing, just ask someone what time it is. Even with a clock right in front of them, they'll just ask because they've trained themselves to rely on someone else. That creates a dependency which is fun while it lasts, but when you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, or when your phone is dead, or when you really got to figure out what time it you're SOL. And that idea and technology is such a path towards dependence. And it's creating different dependencies and interdependencies which make us rely not more on our community. In some senses, we rely on other people more than ever. Even the person who feels most independent, let's say they make so much money, they live alone, they get all their packages delivered by Amazon, everything is automated, they feel more independent, and yet they rely on so many other people for their very existence, yet they're detached from them in so many ways. And so the idea of self-sufficiency as a nexus towards regaining independence, I think, is something we're hoping to traverse together, as well as individually.
See, I say go find out for yourself, but it's because there's good and bad within all aspects of life. There's morality at key in all aspects, Philip. That's why I say that. There's so many different dependencies and causes to every effect that it would, I mean, unless we can point out certain things, which we can give certain examples, but I can't say, generally speaking, for one thing or the other. Everything depends. But nature includes the good and the bad. So it's not like it's all good, okay? It's understand both and the good and the bad. If we don't recognize the bad, then we're not going to get the good. If we don't recognize the good, then we're going to probably get bad. It depends on how we look at the world, right? And depends on what environments we currently live in. It's all environments at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's all forms of health. So if we look at the world more holistically or not. But yeah, I mean, educate yourself. That's what you do, right? When you do your own research. So go ahead, call that gay all you want, but if you do your own research, you probably know how to beat other people in debates, and know how to navigate the world a little bit better when it comes to certain things like your own health, right? Would you trust your own doctor's opinion when he tells you take this drug, or are you going to go online and probably look up all the different solutions for yourself if you don't want to take something so invasive and they're not giving you any other options because they were never taught? Sometimes the internet is a very useful tool, and that is, again, where technology comes really into play here.
Yeah.
Even the book called End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke talks about technology and how it frees humanity. I have slides 191 talking about action, to which, that is just one book within those slides. And it goes in detail with.
Yeah, I think Pylos, he says, okay, he was just kidding, but I think it is funny, calling nature gay. I think that was good. That was a good one. But also, educate yourself, also gay, as he says. That's great. And then, let me read from Philip Burnson, because again, we're going back to this central question. So he says, no matter the question, you can just refer it to nature, and that is inherently correct. Philip, no, I don't think that's what Cory and I are saying. Instead, that by consulting nature, you will find an answer. Yeah, you will, exactly. It'll be essentially a medium, nature as a medium. We talked a few weeks ago about Marshall McLuhan's idea of the medium is the message. If you understand nature as a medium, that is, nature is an environment that creates invisible things that affect our behavior, the way we act, they create an invisible system that influences how we act and interact and behave and think. Understanding nature in that sense, being in nature, or at least observing nature and noticing nature, will allow us to understand things. It works this way in science as well. They're continually consulting biology and zoology to understand better how to, ironically, make technology better and how to, innovate in these ways. Nature is the answer, whether you're using that for good or bad. It just is the answer, I think. Or can you expand on that? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah. If it- Right. Yeah. Your thoughts, that was perfect. I love all the thoughts and all that you're saying here, because it's like it really is connecting different points, and I thank you for doing that. Just to help elaborate and bring more perspective to it. But I would say look at it through different lenses. So we can look at science. What is science supposed to do? What is science supposed to do? It's supposed to study nature, essentially. All right. Well, what is religion supposed to do? Okay, study nature. I mean, it's the same thing across the board.
Mm,
And I'm just getting right to it, saying, okay, well, this is what we're doing at the end of the day. And there's this universal, objective, occult knowledge that has been hidden from us on purpose to keep us dumbed down in a state of control. And that's why natural law comes into play as something to say, okay, man's law is not the law, as police people would say. They say the law is man's law. They've been taught to think that's the law, and everybody calls it the law. But there actually is universal laws that govern the consequences of behavior, just as there are laws that consequence the world, just as the laws of density or the laws of perspective and other aspects that are within our human psychology and so forth. There is
yeah.
one for human consequence of behavior. And it has been also described as karma, in Buddhist or Eastern world traditions. Again, going back to the Eastern world of holistic healing, even Hippocrates, the Western father of medicine, said that nature is the physician. You must go through nature in order to heal the body at all. Um,
Mm,
and so, you know, and then I see a question: is machine learning compatible with these ideas? Machine learning is AI, right? We typically call it artificial intelligence. And so it's sort of right there, it says it in the name. It's not natural intelligence. Natural intelligence is the combination between creativity and intellect. Particularly, it's the left and right brain at a union, again,
mm,
Unism.
yeah.
Um, and so artificial intelligence comes to play where machines start to rule themselves, sort of like humans, and we might be convinced of their human-like abilities, although they're not conscious. So we must keep that in mind, that if we're questioning, what is machine learning, getting to the nature of it, it's not human.
Mm.
So it's going to cause some conflicts in different places. But it could also help us, just as the internet has helped us.
Yeah, I
But
would
there's
say
that's not as complex AI.
no, exactly, and I would say that as we mentioned a little bit earlier, that it's useful, if not only to stand as a metaphor and an example, so that we can better understand how we work. In the same way I mentioned nature influencing technology, technology influences nature. It's not a closed system. They affect and interact with each other, such that we've been molded by the internet age. We very much have been affected and conditioned by the technologies that surround us, to such an extent that AI learns in the same way, or I don't want to say in the same way, but in an analogous way to how humans work. That is, the best example for me is the tool-assisted speed runs. If you ever watch video game speed runs, they try to finish a game as quick as they can, and they've taught AI how to play these games. That is, they've taught a computer program what the controls are and what the objective is. And how the computer will beat a level is it will iterate hundreds and hundreds of different goes, so that it can find the best way. And I would say that this is analogous to the journey that the human soul has been on, perhaps since the beginning, or even before the beginning of time, up until this very point. That is, we iterate, and we continue to understand
Mm-hmm.
things in a deeper and deeper way the more we iterate. We continue to find exploits and better strategies the more we go through. And we're hitting that point where we're getting We've gotten to a few checkpoints by now. We're trying to, the end is in sight, and we've got all
Yeah,
the power ups. Yeah, what do you think?
People ask these questions, and I'm sorry, but just like to address, because there's so much coming in. It's just at the end of the day, it should be simple, and it is. Everything is part of nature, whether you like it or not, and everything has a cause and effect, and everything has objective truths to it, because that is simply inherent to creation. Now, our ability to be conscious and have opinions upon the matter is our perception aligning with the truth. And that is really important. That's what we're, helping the world try to do through education and knowledge. Which is why, when it comes to these questions, I point you guys directly to the knowledge. I'm like saying, hey, study natural law. Hey, look at objective morality. Hey, test this out within your own life in different aspects. I'm pointing right to where you can get this from the source, because you're not going to get it from me. And that's just a blatant fact. To the matter is, we shouldn't worship nature. That's what they do with Bohemian Grove, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they worship an owl statue. Like, what in the world is that about? So it's definitely not anything about that. It's really just another form of what Unism is doing as a movement. You say on your website, it's absolutely transformable. It's nonviolent. I even have a part on the website that says it's nonviolent.
Yes.
And,
yes.
That's important because Gandhi talked about it a lot. It's the non-aggression principle.
Yes.
And it's you say it's completely within our reach. And I saw somebody in the chat like asking, why aren't anybody here, building up their own farm yet? I'm like,
Yes.
that's exactly the comment I wanted to see here. It's like, finally somebody here who's talking about action. And that's nothing against anybody here. I'm saying that what we need to do is, I bet we generally all agree on the same things. It's like, these people who are in power are psychopaths. What we have to do is just basically understand the universal concepts to bring people around them so they stop getting divided, which is the whole point of Unism, and to then bridge the gap, the barriers, and break them, and then escape people to the world of freedom, realize that it's possible, and have that inspiration, open the conversation, at least get these ideas to people who are in the dark so they can, escape the system and not be trapped in complete statism. Do at least the littlest of efforts would make a very impact in today's world, because we tend to want to stay on, the internet, doing our thing. And that's why on my channel, I've been showing people the actions that I'm taking. So I'm doing it. I'm being the change. And sometimes I'm just as hardcore as Mark when I say I want to see other people doing the same thing. But at the end of the day, nothing will change unless people do this. They need to take the required actions for the desired world. If it's required, it's required. If numbers are required, it's required. And that's what's required of the one great work. So if you want to say Unism, nature's the answer, or the one great work, say that as well. Okay, you want another one? UNITA Awake is another one that's also out there. There's many out there that I'm familiar with, that are part of this community of people who are like-minded, generally speaking, because we have these intentions, and those intentions matter. Those intentions tell us we simply want to live our lives in peace. That's it.
Yes.
So how do we get there is the question, and that is where tactics, strategy comes in. Again, like I said to you folks, it's conversation, it's education, and to keep it simple, that's all it needs to be. Having conversations like this is essential, but also getting it to people in the dark would be even more essential. And to some of those ideas that we agree upon that are really crucial, like statism being a very bad, problem in society, that is what needs to get out to the world. And so, arguing about, well, what does nature mean and so forth, I can ask you guys, well, why is nature is the answer? And I'm sure you'll come up with many different answers of your own. And we're just pinpicking certain things for, semantics, trying to get to say, well, what about this situation? What about that situation? Well, is this form of technology natural? Okay, well, what is technology? Is technology of nature? Like, it will keep going and going and going and going. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. But this would end up being a very long stream.
We can't continually iterate every scenario and every concept and every configuration. We could, but it would take until the end of time, literally.
But that's why I have videos on my channel too. So
Yes.
I like these ideas, and I
Yes.
encourage people, if they want to contact me, I'll make specific videos about certain ideas, especially if that's something concerning people. And by the way, nature can be seen as God, for the person who wrote in the chat, because the word nature is Egyptian, and we see that far back. NTR, it's also spelled multiple different ways. It's a symbol of like a flag, which is very symbolic. And that is the Egyptian word for nature, which is representative of God. Pretty powerful stuff there.
Yes, and I would say that's a again, the separation is the link. Like I don't see there being really much of a distinction between God and nature. It's yeah, I think that fits very much
You
so.
see, when we overcomplexify it, that's when we're starting to worship. When we keep it simple and we don't make so much of a big deal out of it, then it's become something that's like, okay, it's just part of our life. It's just something we're using as a bridge for our own human evolutionary goals to become a better species that we were meant to be. Like you mentioned, are we going to evolute, or are we going to de-evolute? And I would say that human beings were actually very advanced in the past, perhaps, from some of the evidence that I've seen, that maybe we have de-evoluted, since then. But I think we can also have the great ability to also be our best potential at all times if we shall choose to do so. And that's why it's just recognition.
Yes, recognition. We're going back to the idea of noticing and noticing the noticing and the presence that precedes it. There's a sense also, modernity says, so the word nature can really mean anything we want. In some sense, well, I would say it this way.
Well,
evolution is essentially...
I'll send you a slide about this.
Okay, good. Evolution, I would say, is the experience of separation. We can understand it in that sense, which is the from a single cell organism splitting into two, or even before, when the first whatever collided with whatever to create the Big Bang, or however it happened. There's been a process of separation which has continued up until this very day. And so bringing it back to that point of unification is, I think, central to what we're talking about. And nature is the answer to that, by which I mean we go back on this path which brings us to the unifying matter, essentially. Okay, let me bring this up.
Yeah, I brought up a slide for him so he can pull it up for you guys. That way maybe it'll provide more perspective into this idea of definition, because it seems like what we're really talking about here a lot with these questions is definition.
Yes.
Right? What is the definition of morality, law, nature, all this? So this slide sort of sums it all up for you guys, if you'd like. I made this. It's part of, again, that presentation that I did. I have several different presentations and videos, and it's optional. It's all optional, but I knew it's because there's communities like this and communities out there, like me, by the way. I'm just like you guys, and I like to question everything. I like to look into things and be like, well, what is going on here? I don't trust this. I don't want to be part of some sort of brand and idea. But it's like, at the end of the day, again, what's going to create change? We need some sort of unifying idea, something that we can increase our presence with. And that might be hard to read for some folks. So again, that's why I encourage they look over the slides for themselves. But yeah, you can try.
And all these images will be linked in the description for you guys watching on the replay. So I'll add all these. But yeah, we'll just sort of look at some of it as I scroll through, and you can pause and get a better look at it as you may. But yeah, no, this is great.
That looks clear now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And notice I have additional comments, and then there's something under, there's a picture under the definition of nature, which really sums up that speculation you guys have about the word. The first picture, right under the description. Yeah, it says, it should be avoided in such vague expressions as a lover of nature, poems of nature, and so forth. Basically, it's saying that there could be a lot of vagueness to it. Let me read the whole thing for you guys. It says, vague expressions such as a lover of nature, poems of nature, unless more specific statements follow, the reader cannot tell whether the poems have to do with natural scenery, rural life, the sunset, the untouched wilderness, or the habits of squirrels. So that just shows you how powerful the word is in so many definitions. And the fact that it can mean a course of things, a condition, a definition, or creation within itself. And that, to me, actually makes the word even more powerful. The fact that it has multiple definitions.
Yes. Exactly. Well, it's the unifying thing. Instead of, it's again that idea of we can refer to so many things under the umbrella of a singular one, being nature, and I think that itself is a metaphor
Logan.
to. No, what's his? Look, I think we should worship nature. Guy in theocracy now. Oh, bro, you're putting the pedal to the metal on that one. But yeah, Pylos says, I agree. We must return to nature. Just don't worship it as the higher thing. No, we're one with nature. That is, we exist in a symbiotic relationship with nature. That is to say, when nature is wrong, so are we, and when we're out of step with it, we lose something. But there's an entirely other dimension, which is spiritual, the spiritual dimension, I would say, which is essentially interfacing man with the whole, with nature as an interface, I would say.
Yeah. And somebody asked, what is the opposite of nature? Well, it's denaturing, is what I'll call it. I wouldn't say it's exactly opposites, because it's still taking place within the realm of nature, and that it's still a possibility, therefore an existence, and therefore natural to happen. But denaturing is taking us away from its original state.
Yes.
So if I were to take a plant, synthesize it through a lab, and turn it into a pharmaceutical drug called Tylenol or whatever it may be called, all of a sudden it turns into something dangerous. Well, somebody could still say that pharmaceutical drug is still natural, but it was chemicalized and processed through a lab. And now, it's been taken from its original state into something that has been tempered with. And that's sort of where I connect the medicine into this a lot as well. That's why I say nature is unifying both with religion, politics, science, and health. And I even go through the lens of each in another slide of the presentation.
Yes. And so again, there are a lot of resources on this. I've included links in the description for you guys to check out the NITA.1 website. As well as the NITA.1/resources site. There's a lot of great stuff, just practical stuff, like maybe a different OS you want to use, a different way to kind of configure things that I think will assist in helping us on this course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need to get the truth out there. At the end of the day, that's it. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I keep saying that. Whoops. But yeah, it's just I want to see people getting out there. I want to see the energy out there. I'm trying to inspire other people. We've got our communities out there. We have something going on lately at NITA.1/action. We're putting up signs around our neighborhoods.
Yes.
We're getting the voices out there. But to see more and more people do that, it's powerful. And they're making connections. They're meeting people that are like-minded. We're attracting people who, want to be maybe find some presence in their own life, maybe have some help within their own life, or maybe what have you. There's many different goals people have. There's also different struggles, and that's why the Discord is also there to keep people accountable. I also encourage people to make their own groups. I send people materials overseas for free, even if it costs a lot of money, to start up different things within their own neighborhoods, because this is how important it is to me. I think that this is truly something that will change the world, and through all my research and so forth, it has become evident through looking at how Gandhi do it, looking at Martin Luther King, everybody. It's become evident to me. And I also know and am familiar with, at least, the fact that there will be problems in time, but I've also speculated upon that, which is why I have so many slides about it. So thank you, Agency, by the way, for joining us, dude. I really appreciate all the comments and so forth. Again, contact me if you have any thoughts that you want, or any video requests or whatever. I like to try to open the conversation for those who do like to think really in depth, because you guys, I like that about you guys, is that you like to look into things at a deeper level, into bringing that to different aspects. But I do also ask you to once in a while just keep it simple, zoom out for a bit.
Yes. And I think already again, like Cody is saying, we're here to engage. That's what this all is, and I think hopefully we can kind of stand as not as a direction, but as kind of an inspiration in some sense. Like we want people to start their own channels, to engage in this, and to build something. We kind of look up to these people, like for Unism, 𝕎𝕙𝕒𝕥, or even Mark Passeo, and all these people that are doing their own thing. But it's upon us to become these people for the next generation. That is to present and articulate ideas in an ongoing discussion that is meant to resolve ourselves unto ourselves. And that really is the mission. Whether it's interpersonal or personal or both, or to whatever end, again, the work is the reward in this sense. So we're happy to engage in that respect.
I'm very grateful for you to talk to me and to have them meet you and look at all your stuff. I love your aesthetic. I love the Windows XP and all that. It's honestly awesome. I like Linux too, though, let's be honest. Linux is great.
Damn.
But 𝕤𝕤𝕤, your comment, it's all about power. I want to ask you, what is power? It's to say knowledge is power, okay? Knowledge is power. This is why education is so important. So I just got to the root of power just by saying that.
Amen. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Well, guys, so we're nearing the 2 o'clock mark. We're not done just yet, but actually, let's see if we can finally do a little bit of praxis, and this will be probably easy for you, Cory. But I made a promise 2 weeks ago that we would do some knot tying on the channel, and I hope you guys have your rope ready. Let's see if we can do one knot together. Let's just do a simple one. Just to kind of commemorate this, tying a knot between Unism and nature is the answer. So let's get an easy one, but a fun one. Let's see if I can load this up. What sounds better to you, clove hitch, or I think a sheet bend is might be a good one. Let me see. I think. Well, let's just keep it simple with a clove hitch. I think my video is still loading. Well, let's do a square knot actually. Might as well. That's a simple one we can wrap up pretty quickly. If you want to,
you should have told me. I would have got a rope.
Well, if you want to take a second, see if you can find one. Otherwise, I'm sure you got some shoes on. Let's see.
Oh, that's actually a good idea.
Let me get my rope real quick.
You guys are talking about power. Talk about power is like the pyramid system as well, right? It's basically a differential of power. The pyramid system. Those at the top have more knowledge that are kept away from the bottom, which is the whole point of occultism. If you don't know what the occult means, that's basically what it means is keeping the masses in the dark below the pyramid while the light is above at the top of the pyramid, which is why the eye is above, the symbol of enlightenment. The light standing for the knowledge, the power as knowledge. Those are all symbolic terms that have been said over the generations. The whole idea of the symbology of that goes back to the pyramid system. And so if you're asking what are we to do, it's to level out the playing field. Basically give the power back to the people where it belongs by bringing the knowledge to the people, the knowledge that has been suppressed from them.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, here we go. Again, the video quality, I think just because I'm doing so many things on my Windows XP can't handle it right now, so it may be a little bit blurry, but we'll see if we can proceed. Again, this is a pretty simple one.
You can barely handle me.
I know, right? So square knot, this is what it looks like, guys. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. It's two ropes sort of forming a loop within and around themselves. So we'll see how it's done. We'll do it ourselves, and we'll have learned a knot. So again, joining two ends of a line around an object. Lots of different uses. And okay, let's get the let's see if you guys can hear
Boy
this.
Scouts.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what it's about, man. Let's see.
And left over right for the other.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully the quality holds out.
And then left over right for the other.
Agency, I'm never tired. Tie that knot. Don't be tired. Wake up. Tie the knot.
Okay, here we go.
We can do it.
In a medical setting, and home and garden. It's used to join two ends of a line around an object. Let's pretend that these two ends are part of the same rope. You go right over left for one of the knots.
Okay, right over left. So you got two ropes right over left. You got it?
And then left over right for the other.
And then left over right. So you bring the two ends together and then take them right over left. I think I'm doing this. Okay, so you should have something that resembles this. Okay. Got it.
The result should be a symmetrical knot with two ends running parallel to each other.
And
the second
boom.
knot is the clove hitch.
Well, that was it. Let's. I'll play one more time just because I don't know how much of that made it through. But yeah,
7 knots
simple,
you need to know.
Simple enough. And this is hopefully the start of what
square
will go
knot,
on to
also
be
known as the
our naughty education in learning the practical things of what we need to know. But yeah, bit cringe, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too tough. But send your pictures. If you guys did a badass knot, you can share it on the Discord. We'll kind of work this out so it's a little bit more smooth. But other than that, what else is there left to say, Cory?
I love this. No, it's just cool. I love the fact you share memes and do all this stuff. It's pretty awesome. I need to come next time. If I ever collaborate with you again, I'm going to have to bring like materials and I'll make this a show.
Oh, dude, we're going to do it for sure. We'll definitely have you on again. And let us know in the comments what you guys think, because again, this is kind of a new format. I was kind of doing my best to prepare for these shows and do it solo to an extent. But more and more, it's very evident that we need to bring in more members of the community and just the wider discussion that's at hand, so that we can figure out these issues together, reach a consensus or something close to it, and forge at least a path towards the direction we need to be heading. And I definitely think that Cory and Nature is the Answer is on that path towards that direction.
Thanks. I think you are too, for the most part, for sure. You've made great impact over the years, I see. I mean, I haven't been doing this too long, so you deserve a lot of credit. And you've been putting massive amount of works into it.
Yeah, well, it's like we said, it's a labor of love, and the work is the reward. Again, you come out with it just like these knots. Like maybe it takes a little bit, but once you got it, you have something that's with you. And again, that is how knowledge is power.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Once you have it, it's there. It stays with you, and that's why you grow. And you're like, oh, this is so powerful. I need to share this to others, because you see, it's like, why won't anybody else see this, right? And it drives you insane. Some people in my community, they're like, oh my gosh, my family members are driving me insane, and yeah, all of that. Got to situate here and there, but generally speaking, we'll create the change in the world. We just have to put more effort into it, more energy. If anybody wants to join on the action efforts, NITA.1/action. Feel free to join us in the Discord, talk to anybody else, learn more, talk to me directly. I like that too. I'm open to that. I have no problem with that. Just to get these ideas out there, especially in the initial stages, I know would always be the most difficult, right? But
yeah. No, but that is exactly.
I'm always willing to collaborate.
Yes, exactly, and that's what it is all about, collaboration. So again, as Agency has said, thanks for coming. You're always invited to sit in the circle, and I second that. You're very much welcome and at home in this circle, and vice versa. So, yeah, thanks again, Cory. Amazing show. I thought this was great, and we'll do it again sometime soon. Go visit NITA.1, guys. Check out everything he's doing. Again, all the slideshows and presentations, materials and resources. It's a wealth of information, and we'll link all that stuff in the description as well. Well, other than that, guys, thanks again. You can subscribe if you're not already. You can like and share this video, etc., etc. But other than that, there is not much else to say, but we will see you in the circle. Thanks again, Cory, and hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Oh, also, we have our Sunday circle meeting, which is at the same time as the stream, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, tomorrow, where you can join for an open discussion in our Discord server, which we do every week. But yeah, other than that, there's not much else to say, but we will see you in the circle. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate everything, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Cory. You're the best, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. All right, guys, take care.
Your chat loves memeing. Love you all. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Peace.